Howdy, Hoopheads, and welcome to Her Game, Her Voice, the podcast with big stories about women's basketball in 15 minutes or less. I'm your host, Kari Peterson. Have y'all been watching the NCAA women's tournament? Because, wow, I have been in full-on hoops nirvana. This March has delivered. We've had drama, buzzer beaters, double overtimes, and yes, a Cinderella story. On today's episode, I'm going to break down the madness, including that Cinderella story. I'm going to dig into a listener question about that thing called the portal. And I'm asking a bigger question about money. Does it actually equal success in women's college hoops? And I'll wrap up the episode with the awards. Now let's tip it off. Guess what? We've got ourselves a March Madness Cinderella story. I'm talking about the University of Virginia Cavaliers. This is a women's basketball program with history. It's where Dawn Staley played, but it's been a while since they were part of March Madness. UVA didn't even start in the main bracket in this year's tournament. They had to play their way in through the first four. They beat Arizona State by just 2 points to grab a 10-seed spot in the tournament. Barely in, but in. Then they faced 7-seeded Georgia. They were down 8 in the fourth quarter, and they came back to force overtime. And this is when I first really noticed UVA's head coach. Her name is Amaka Agugwa Hamilton, also known as Coach Mox. She was completely calm. Not panicking, not pacing the sideline, just confidently present. Now, this is the part where Schmoopy says to me, "You should take a lesson from Coach Mox." And I reply, "But it's March Madness, baby." Anyway, Virginia charged back in overtime, and they beat the Georgia Bulldogs. Yep, we've got ourselves a Cinderella. Next up for Virginia, a 2-seed, and Caitlin Clark's alma mater, the Iowa Hawkeyes. Virginia has to play the Hawkeyes on their home court at Carver Arena in front of a sold-out crowd. And most people were expecting a blowout. Instead, we got double overtime. And again, Coach Mox. Even when the moment and the crowd were very much not on Virginia's side, she was steady and composed. And that's the way her team played, too. They never lost their composure. It didn't matter that the majority of the people there didn't want them to win. They wanted to win and believed they would. Led by Kamora Johnson with 28 points and Paris Clark with 20, UVA pulled off the double overtime victory, winning the game 83-75. Now Virginia is the first team to ever advance from the first four to the Sweet 16. Yay! Next, UVA plays a 3-seed, TCU's Horned Frogs, led by the outstanding Olivia Miles and Marta Suarez. And I think it's important to note that at this point, Virginia has played way more basketball than anyone else left in the tournament. With the play-in game and a total of 3 overtimes, Virginia has played 15 quarters of basketball in the span of about a week. The other teams, just 8 quarters. Virginia led the game at halftime. And I'm thinking, wait, is this really happening? Is there going to be another upset? But in the second half of the game, TCU's size and depth took over. And just like that, Virginia's magical run ended. But wow, think about it. From the first four to the Sweet 16 and knocking off a 2-seed along the way. That's not just a Cinderella run. Virginia made a statement. Their program is back in the mix, and I expect to see them in the tournament again next year. Now, we're not going to move on from Virginia just yet, because we need to talk about something really important. The Cinderella story didn't just happen. Virginia got a major boost off the court from Alexis Ohanian, or Ohanian, depending on which pronunciation guide you follow. He's the co-founder of Reddit. Yep, that Alexis Ohanian. You know, the guy married to Serena Williams. So it's safe to say that investing in women's sports might be kind of important to him. He also graduated from UVA, so he's being true to his school. Anyway, Ohanian made what UVA called a transformational multi-year gift to the women's basketball program. We're talking millions of dollars, reportedly over $3 million, specifically to boost recruiting, player retention, and overall competitiveness. And here's something that really caught my attention. This wasn't just some feel-good donation. This was strategic. He literally said he wanted to help make Virginia a national contender in women's basketball. And faster than you can say, cha-ching, the team now has high-impact players who transferred in from other schools, deeper roster talent, and a team that goes from barely making the tournament to knocking off a 2 seed and making a historic Sweet 16 run. So here's the question. Was this just a magical Cinderella run? Or was this the result of a major investment in a women's basketball program, the kind we don't often see? Because if it's the latter, then Virginia isn't just a feel-good story. It might actually be a preview of where the women's game is headed. And actually, there's another twist to this story. Since I recorded this segment, Virginia has fired their head coach. What? Coach Mox is out. The same coach who just led Virginia to a Sweet 16 run is gone. And if you're wondering what that says about investment in women's basketball, it tells you this. When the money shows up, so do the expectations. Yeah, we're definitely coming back to that because money isn't just shaping programs, it's influencing where players go. And that brings us to this week's listener question. This one comes from Molly in Duluth, Minnesota, who wrote, "There's a lot of talk about the portal during the tournament. Can you clearly explain what it is and how it works?" Molly, great question. Because if you want to see how money and opportunity are changing women's college basketball in real time, look no further than the transfer portal. So let me break it down simply. The transfer portal is basically a centralized database where college athletes can enter their names and say, "Hey, I'm open to transferring." Once they're in the portal, other schools can contact them and recruit them legally. Here's how it works in a nutshell. A player tells their school, "I want in." The school has 48 hours to enter them into the database. And boom, they're on the market. From there, it's recruiting all over again. Campus visits, pitches, promises, often with parents involved, just like senior year of high school. But here's the catch. There are no guarantees. You can enter the portal thinking you're upgrading your situation and end up with no team, no scholarship, and a whole lot of regret. Some people call this portal purgatory. And there's no guarantee your old team will take you back either. For some players, it's the end of their college basketball career. And this is where the follow the money part kicks in. With NIL deals in the mix, the portal isn't just about playing time anymore. It's also about who has the biggest bag of money, who has the best brand deals. Because at the end of the day, players tend to follow the money. This year, the women's basketball transfer portal window is from April 6th to April 20th. 15 days to decide if you're staying put or swiping right on a whole new team. Bottom line, the transfer portal gives players more power than ever, but it's also a fast-moving, high-stakes marketplace where fit, opportunity, and money are all competing. Thanks for the question, Molly. Got a question for me? Send it to host@hergamehervoice.com. And now it's time for everybody's favorite, the awards section of the podcast. First up, the Buzzer Beater Award. This week, the Buzzer Beater Award goes to Shea Ralph, head coach of the Vanderbilt Commodores women's basketball team. Now, those of you who know me and know my feelings about UConn Huskies women's basketball might be thinking, now hold on, Kari. Don't you realize that Shea Ralph played for Gino and coached with him too? Yes, I do know that. And we're going to move right past that because this isn't about Gino. This is about Coach Ralph, who is having an amazing year. She racked up National Coach of the Year honors from just about everybody, including the Women's Basketball Coaches Association, where she received the prestigious Pat Summitt Trophy. She also took home Coach of the Year from the Naismith Awards, the Associated Press, ESPN, Sporting News, The Athletic. Basically, if there's an award for coaching, Shea Ralph probably won it this year. But wait, there's more. She was also named 2026 SEC Coach of the Year after leading Vanderbilt to a 29-5 record, a top 5 AP ranking, and a Sweet 16 appearance. Not bad at all. Congratulations, Coach Ralph. Now you have a buzzer beater award too. Now it's time for the Airball Award. This week's Airball Award goes to ABC and ESPN for giving the women's NCAA basketball championship game a Sunday afternoon time slot. Sunday afternoon, that's prime time for laundry, errands, and napping, or as my dad used to say, just resting my eyes for 5 minutes. Meanwhile, the men's championship game, that's a big event. It's on Monday night, prime time. And it's not like the women's game is still trying to prove itself. Last year's championship game pulled in 18.7 million viewers, which outdrew the men's game. So the audience is there, the interest is there. So I keep coming back to something we've been talking about: money, investment in women's sports, and respect. Primetime isn't just about convenience, it's about commitment. It's the network saying, this is worth building our night around. And to be fair, putting the game on Sunday afternoon isn't nothing. It's just not everything it could be, especially when the product has been delivering at a primetime level. If women's basketball is showing up in a big way, it might be time to give it a time slot that does the same. And that's why ABC and ESPN get this week's Airball Award. And now it's time for the Flagrant Foul Award. This one goes to the NCAA for introducing a bold new tournament format that I like to call March Madness, the Sleep Deprivation Edition. Because this year, women's teams were scheduled for shoot-arounds at, wait for it, 5:50 a.m. 5:50. A time that, just to be clear, most college students have only heard rumors about. And this isn't just me being dramatic, although, yes, always a possibility. This comes from Coach Gino Ariema, who pointed out that his UConn team had a 6 a.m. shoot-around, then time with the media in the middle of the day, followed by a team practice session at night. That's less of a basketball schedule and more of a, let's see what happens if we mess around with athletes' circadian rhythms. And here's why this is happening. The NCAA moved the women's tournament from 4 regional sites down to 2. This is the so-called super regional model. Like a lot of things, it looked good on paper. An opportunity for more fans to attend the games in person, and a chance for teams to play in bigger venues. But in reality, we now have a bunch of elite women's basketball players sharing a limited number of basketball courts. So some teams are getting primetime shoot-arounds, and other teams are getting sunrise yoga with a basketball. Meanwhile, the men's tournament is still using 4 sites in March. Everyone gets to practice during normal hours, and players also get more rest so they can play their best during the tournament. The women? Rise and shine, or in this case, just rise. Shine is probably not in the cards. And look, this isn't just about inconvenience. Routine matters. Sleep matters. Preparation matters. So NCAA, you get a flagrant foul. I'm Kari Peterson, and you've been listening to Her Game, Her Voice. Want more? Hit follow or subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. If you do that, you won't miss an episode. And while you're on the show page, please drop a rating or review, or share an episode with a friend. You can also find Her Game, Her Voice on Substack, YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. Thanks for listening, and happy hooping.